Okay, so today's discussion is going to be participating in online group discussions, okay, because it is a mystery, huh? So first and foremost, this just outlines what I'm going to discuss today, which is what is the purpose of group discussions, you know, some of the benefits and the challenges of group discussions, some key points to keep in mind, okay, while you are participating, some etiquette tips, as well as some strategies, and any questions that we have at the end. Hopefully we'll have time to do that to answer, okay? So, but before we do that, I am going to ask you guys to do a little work. Oopsie. What happened there? I'm posing some questions to you, and all I want you to do is just to put them in the chat area. So first question is, why do you think group discussions are important? You know, what is your perspective of group discussions? So just type in the chat area. You know, just a one-liner will be fine. Gives me an idea where you are. Okay, so Ruth Ann says different views on things. Yep. Always good to get other opinions. They reinforce learning. Yep, to show what we understand, what we are learning, questions you never thought to ask, to let us participate. Beautiful. Provide feedback and gain insight on subject. Yes, gives you the chance to share opinions and ideas. Beautiful. Very nice responses. Okay, yes, understand other ideas. Now what is the most difficult part for you as a person, okay, when participating in group discussions? Yes, when other participants are not involved in the discussion. Correct. Group discussions, not sure, first time. Okay. Following conversation threads in time to make comments. Yes. Okay. Good. Yeah, the most difficult part, I will agree with you, is when the other classmates are not responding at all. Okay, and that tends to be a problem. Alrighty. Now, what do you think is the biggest concern when it comes to group discussions for you? And maybe this might be a little bit redundant, but again, you know, maybe there's a concern, and there's one particular student that just said that's just first time. So, you know, what are you concerned about? Yep, becoming familiar with procedures, yes. And typically that is covered in the course syllabus as far as what is expected. Okay. I'm just waiting. It looks like two people are going to respond. When making comments, do not offend. Yes. At least you're aware of that, though. Some students are not aware of that. Avoiding being judgmental. Yes. And that can be very difficult, especially because you're in an online. They can't really see your body language and your inflection in your voice. And so your writing actually has to express how you kind of feel or how you would react. Yes, being objective. Okay, good. Good. Okay, well, let's go into really what the purpose of discussions are. And a lot of you have already, you know, are quite aware of what the purpose of the group discussions. But let's review some of those so we're all on the same page. It replaces definitely the classroom environment, okay, because when we come in together in a classroom environment, we're sharing ideas and reinforcing ideas and learning and, you know, interacting, okay, and that's important. It acclimates the student to using the online software, okay, believe it or not. So while you're in there, you are learning how to use the software, all right, instead of just jumping in and doing your assignments. So it is a challenge to learn that, especially those threads. It also develops and challenges the student's communication writing skills. Now, you know, in a classroom, it's challenging your communication skill when it comes to verbal, possibly presentation if you have to do a presentation, but it's not challenging writing skills. So in the online group discussion, you are actually developing your writing skills because, you know, it is a writing-intensive college, and you are going to have to do a lot of writing. So it's important. Keep that in mind, by the way, because we're going to come back to that a couple times, the writing part. It does also allow you to create a connection with other students, and that can be difficult, okay? And I'll talk a little bit about that in the challenges. But what it also does is it provides insight to the instructor as to the student's understanding and perspective of the subject in general, basically the whole class. So if in fact, I've seen this before, where discussions really just go completely way off, okay, the topic that they were asked to discuss, the instructor can come back in and go, okay guys, all right, we're getting off the topic. You're talking about, your vacation here and you're talking about that. That's not what the discussion is meant to be, correct? Or they're talking about the assignment or the subject or whatever the assignment was, and they're really off, and the instructor is there to bring them back. So it does provide the means for that. And of course, yes, it allows students to gain other perspectives and ideas from classmates. And that's important too. And I just want to make sure I don't jump ahead when I come to that. Well, I can always restate it again. The reason why that last bullet is important is because you might have not thought about that particular perspective or idea, and you have to do a final project at the end of the term. And you might go, geez, I could incorporate that. That is a great idea. Never thought about it. Of course, you don't want to steal the idea, but it gives you at least something to think about. And of course, somebody also mentioned it reinforces the, the learning of the subject, which is correct, which I didn't put that as a bullet. So any questions there so far before I move on to the next one? Okay, good. Okay, so I think we already know what the benefits are, okay? But again, let's talk about them. So the benefits of an online environment, especially in the discussion area, it gives you time to think, okay? You can do some research, okay, before sharing, okay? And you have time to observe somebody else's perspective and comment before responding, basically. Think about when you're in a classroom and you're put on the spot, you have to kind of respond at that point. And hopefully you've done your homework and you've read and you've done this, that you can actually respond in a thoughtful, clear, concise, informative way. Sometimes that's very difficult to do. In this environment, you actually do have the ability to do that. What it also does is it removes the reaction factor. Now, of course, you can still react if you really wanted to, but hopefully you do take the time to actually read, okay, some of the postings. You also read before you actually post yours, and that you have actually put something out there that is not going to be judgmental and is somewhat objective. I mean, everybody's going to have some type of a bias one way or the other. As long as you can actually ground it, which we'll talk about, okay, then that's good. But you want to, obviously, yes, you want to see if you can try to reduce the judgmental and objective and be objective factor. Let me see here. Just looking to make sure I don't want to kill that point, but I think you get the point. The second bullet is for those who are hesitant to respond in the classroom, this actually reduces the barriers. I mean, think about when you've been in a classroom, years back or maybe even recently, there's always someone or a group of people that don't respond. They want to just kind of stay there. Please don't call me. Please don't call on me. Here you really don't have a choice, quite honestly, okay? You are graded on, okay, your discussions and your participation and your engagement. And so you have to do that. In some cases, the traditional classroom, you're not necessarily graded, but I think they're changing that, but still. But someone's not going to look at you, and I hate to put it out there, oh, well, gosh, look at what she's wearing, not even paying attention to what she's even saying, right? It reduces those barriers, and I think that is very positive benefit. And then the last bullet is provide students to work at their own pace and environment, and I think this is key. This allows you to work in your optimum time and environment that works for you, okay? Obviously, everybody has their own idea of time. They strive to at least achieve that, if not, maybe have a secondary. So when the best time is or when you have the time versus you've got to go to that classroom and sit in that classroom and do it. So there are definitely some benefits, okay, to the online discussions. Now, of course, the challenges, all right, there are many. But, they can actually be, overcome. So the challenge is your connection with the instructor is through writing. And so if you're not clearly writing or conveying your message, it's going to be very difficult for your instructor to really understand where you're coming from. And the instructor is obviously going to grade you or comment or provide you feedback based on what you've submitted, as well as the group that you're discussing, okay, a particular subject or point is going to do the same. And so you need to make sure that when you submit something that you truly have put something out there that can be read. Of course, the challenges are you're putting your response out there, wondering if it's correct and how others will respond and how you will respond. There's some anxiety and stress that goes along, especially that first time you have to post something. It's like, oh my gosh, what is going to happen? So your challenge is not to sit there and wait for somebody else to post, by the way, because somebody mentioned, getting other people to be involved in the discussion. If you're one of those people that are sitting around just like everybody else, no one will post anything and no discussion will be spurred on. And honestly, I think discussion is very, very important to reinforce the subject, okay, or the point being made. I think it, increases, our awareness. It definitely brings different light to different ideas and perspectives. So try not to fall, okay, into that area like some other students do, okay, because truly your learning is going to be impacted, and you're here to learn, okay. It definitely challenges your writing ability and skills, all right, and we'll talk a little bit about that in another part. But bottom line is that you need to write, and you need to have the writing at college level was expected. The challenge is also you are the boss, okay? You have to hold yourself accountable. You are responsible for getting in the discussion area. The instructor is not going to chase you down. Again, you get graded on your participation and engagement in the group discussions, okay? And so you need to make sure that you are in there, okay? The challenge is also how often to participate. In your course syllabus, it does indicate, okay, what is expected when it comes to the discussion areas. But the challenge is, for some, and I think I might be jumping ahead, so hold on. No, I'm jumping a little ahead. Some of the courses are developed a little bit different when it comes to discussions. Some modules are cut, module 1 is only 3 weeks, and some of them are cut that 1 week to read. The second week is to post in the discussion and actually have a discussion, and then it closes. Okay, and you can't go back. So it's really important, okay, that you participate during that window. Other courses, the discussions are open from beginning to the end of the term, and you can go in there at any time, which means you can also jump ahead. I highly would not suggest jumping ahead personally, okay? You really want the interaction. If you jump ahead, you're not going to have any interaction. But anyways, and then of course the challenges are following the threads. The threads can be confusing sometimes. Oh my gosh, did I respond to this one? Did I respond to this one? You need to kind of play a little in the discussion area with the threads and what visual works for you, okay? So not all of those visuals work for, everyone. So I think you can show one where it shows where you've responded. I think there's another one that shows how many responses to yours. So again, just play around with some of those settings, okay? Okay, so here's some key points that I want you to keep in mind, all right, when you are participating. And it's interesting because the acronym is right. How appropriate, huh? Warmth. There is a human at the other end, and I think we tend to forget that now in our society. It's not a computer, it's a person. And so that person is going to react, okay, if you've insulted them. So just be aware of that, okay? Try not to fall into that kind of trap, I guess is what I'm saying. Definitely be responsive, okay, and engage. Would you wait to the end of the week, in a traditional classroom to actually respond? Well, of course not, right? So you don't want to do the same here. Don't wait to the end of the week or the end of the term to go and decide that you're going to respond. Try to stay on top of that. Inquisitive. Now somebody mentioned, others don't participate in the discussion. Sometimes they'll meet the minimum, but they don't respond, and they don't. Maybe asking them some questions, okay, might engage a conversation, okay. You got to be careful with that because too many questions actually can become insulting, and the person becomes a defensive. The other thing too is you got to make sure, as somebody mentioned, being too objective or offending somebody. And how to offend somebody truly, and I'll go into the next one, which is attentive, is how you actually ask the question or state something, okay? So instead of saying, it is, meaning there is no other way, okay, you could say it appears, okay, and you can ground that. The other point I want to make about the inquisitive is when you ask questions, think about this, okay? When someone asks you questions, you can't wait to actually answer them, correct? People like other people to listen to their opinion, okay, and typically are willing and very forthright of answering those. So just be aware of that. And asking questions too can clarify something that you're unsure of in a posting, because someone might not have clearly written what they really wanted to state. And so you really have to ask those questions and pull it out. And yes, that can be challenging. I do know that. And I mentioned the tentativeness, okay? Basically, this is just to reduce unhealthy and unnecessary arguments, okay? It happens. It does happen, by the way, but you really want to make sure that you can try to avoid them. And then lastly is empathy. Put yourself in the role of your audience. These are your classmates. Some people are going to have more knowledge about the subject than others. Some are not. And some are going to be, completely who cares. Some are just going to be dropping out. Just know who they are. And just remember your tone and how you sound to others and how do you think they will respond to your posting. It's always good, and I'll give you a little tip when we get to the strategies, but it's always good to have maybe someone look at your response, okay, and say, what do you think? I just want your opinion about tone, all right? Not necessarily how it's written, but the tone. You also could read it out loud before you actually post it. I mean, that's always a good thing to do, and I didn't put that in my strategy, but it's good to read it out loud because then you'll know. And do you think they'll be offended by that? Now, be aware that there are certain courses will ask you not to start an argument, but actually, pose an argument, all right? And of course, there is a structure, okay, that you have to follow in order to do that, okay? And it's a healthy argument that is actually grounded with evidence. So I want to give you an example because I don't, maybe you're thinking, oh yeah, I get that, but maybe not. But business ethics is a perfect example, or any ethics class for that matter, can really spur on very judgmental, very opinionated, very biased opinions, okay? And we're all passionate about something, right? Well, how you convey that, okay, is important. You can be very, strong in your opinion, but if you're just saying, well, the moon is blue, okay, and that's that. Well, no, not really. I'm looking at it. It's white. No, it's blue, and well, ground that. Well, I can't because that's how I feel, and it's blue. Well, that's very argumentative, and it's not really true. But but if you can actually find evidence that supports the fact that the moon is blue, okay, then okay, you're okay, all right? So I want to give you an example because I think this was a perfect example of a student's experience in a business ethics class, and it really emphasizes this empathy part. So I don't know if you're all familiar with the Ford Pinto case study, but Ford developed obviously the Pinto, and when they did develop it, they knew that upon impact that it would explode and start on fire because of where the gas tank was located. And Ford decided to release it anyways and sell it, and they did so based on their business analysis. And the business analysis was based on, okay, so what is the percentage we think that will explode, and what is the cost of that, and what is the cost of the lawsuits in comparison if we actually stop production, okay, and what our sales are going to be. Well, obviously, based on the business analysis, they figured no problem, okay, we're willing to take that hit of those many losses. They didn't take the human factor, okay, into consideration. It was all numbers. Now, all of you are probably saying right now, you all have a reaction, right? The reaction is, oh my gosh, of course they're unethical. Well, okay, ground that. And so with this particular student, because the easy thing to do is obviously say that Ford was wrong, the student took the other side of the, yes, that case was covered in great detail in the business ethics class. It's a very fascinating case study. This particular case or student took the side of Ford. okay, and grounded it with the theory that was covered in the book, and did an excellent, excellent job, okay, of grounding that, by the way. And it was a very, what's the word I want to look for? I mean, it was a risk, right? But the student felt, well, why not? You know, let me challenge myself to see if I in fact can actually support what Ford did. So the student posted it in the discussion area. Well, what do you all think happened? Just out of curiosity, just make some comments. Anybody? Outrage, absolutely outrage. Okay, and so what do you think they did? The students reacted, right? Totally reacted, okay, out of opinion. And the student who actually posted that knew that was going to happen and was expecting that, okay, but was also prepared to come back and ground again why Ford was correct, okay. And believe it or not, that student got, you know, an A on that particular discussion. My point is, okay, my point is not to say that Ford was right, because obviously Ford was not, and they got sued and they had to stop. But the point is that that person can ground it, and the people that actually responded should have responded, okay, with a theory, okay, to prove that they were unethical. Okay, that's my point. So my point is, don't react. Okay, you can react in a way going, oh my gosh, how could you have, you know, in a nice, light manner, but then come back with, well, I think Ford was unethical and these are the reasons I feel, or these are the reasons, and based on, you know, such and such a theory, blah, 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 blah. You could easily do that, okay? So I beat that one to death, but that's a perfect example of what I'm talking about in a discussion area, okay? So I will move on. Okay, some more points that I want you to keep in mind, okay, when it comes to discussions. You know, alert the instructor if you're unclear of the expectations, okay, of the discussions, all right? And the reason why I say that is because you might find there are going to be some students that are overzealous about the discussion, and they're in there all the time, and they're posting, and they're posting, and they're posting, and they're, like, you know, citing, and they have these sources, and they have resources, and they have these links. You know, it can become just overwhelming, okay? And if in fact you feel the expectations were that you were supposed to be in there 3 days a week and you were supposed to respond to 2 responses or 2 postings, as well as any responses to your posting, but yet other students are doing much more, you know, it might be confusing. So you might want to check with your instructor if you feel you're not doing enough, okay? Or, you know, is it necessary for someone to be posting 20 posts, you know? So don't call the student out on it though, okay? You know, contact your instructor if you're concerned. Which leads me to the next one, is if in fact you feel that a student is being inappropriate, okay? Now, if the student's being inappropriate, by the way, the instructor is already monitoring the discussion area and most likely will make some comments to kind of get the student or students, you know, back on track. If the behavior continues, you know, the instructor will handle that. But if you really feel that their student is maybe insulting you, or you feel it's inappropriate, make sure that you contact the instructor. Never call out a student, okay, in the classroom, okay? Please don't do that, because then that will be a problem, okay, for you. And then obviously always cite your sources and use the correct format that is always outlined in your course syllabus, and follow the etiquette rules, which we are going to go into right now. Now, these are just some of the rules. These are not all. Some are also sometimes outlined in your course syllabus. You can find some of these online. Sometimes there's a link in your course syllabus, but I think most of you guys know some of these, and I'm just going to review them. So the bottom line is that these are just basic manners, you know, when we're online in a discussion, okay, or even email, text messaging. You really should be using these as well. But which leads me into the next one. Please do not use text messaging shortcuts in your discussions. That you will get failed, okay? You will not, that is just not the proper way to write, okay? So please don't use that. Make sure you check for typos, spelling errors, punctuation, incomplete sentences. When you post something to the discussion area, it should be a really clean, tight response. Even if it's 2 sentences, 3 sentences, a paragraph, just make sure, okay, that it can be clearly read, okay? The other thing is, we all know about this, I hope, is do not use caps, Caps indicate that you're shouting, so just avoid them completely. Unless based on your document and your response, there might be something in there that has to be caps, but don't write everything in caps. Do not share personal or inappropriate information, okay, in a discussion area. Just not really good to do. If you're having a personal issue, you probably want to talk to your instructor in private, and that can be done in the private folder or over the phone. And then, of course, like I mentioned, do not call out a classmate nor your instructor in front of the classroom. That is just a no-no, and you definitely don't want to be contacted by the school for violating school policy as it pertains to conduct, okay? So just be aware of that. Any questions about that, comments? I know I'm kind of moving along, and hopefully I'm not moving too quickly. I see someone's typing, so I'll just wait a minute. Okay, well maybe not. Okay, I'm just going to go to the next slide, and if the student, oh here she is, okay, or he. Could you be a little bit more specific about appropriate contact? All right, let me think about that for a minute. You want to give me an example? Are you talking about sharing inappropriate information? Is that what you're saying or asking? Okay, all right. All right, so for instance, I think sharing inappropriate information like, the night that last night, I went out last night and blah, 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 blah. Or I'm going through a divorce, or my children are such and such, or in some cases, if you do have a disability, you probably don't want to share that information. That's private, okay? So things like that is what I'm thinking would be inappropriate, okay? Or inappropriate, there you go, you got it? Okay, perfect. Okay, so some strategies. So let's talk about these. You definitely want to understand what is expected when it comes to the discussions. And again, look at the course syllabus. It's very, very clear, okay, of what is expected and how you're going to be graded on the discussion area. Now, some discussions are not really, well, they're discussions, but they're not. Some courses will ask you to do an actual assignment, okay, a full-on paper, 5 pages, and submit that to the discussion area, and that your classmates are asked to comment, okay, on your paper, all right? Meaning, do they agree or disagree, why, that type of stuff. Some are just asking you to respond to a particular question, okay, and that question you can respond, as little as, a sentence, paragraph, or whatever. So make sure that you understand what the specifications of that, all right? And if unclear, contact your instructor, okay? The other thing, too, is it will indicate how many times they expect you to respond. So, for instance, some will indicate that you need to respond to 2 of your classmates, which seems to be typical, by the way, and respond to all, okay, of the comments made to you, back to you, that you're expected to do that. And what I mean by commenting, you really need to not say okay or thanks for the feedback. That's not what the instructor is looking for. Okay, so if someone, like for instance, the person that put the their opinion and their theory about the Ford Pinto, students are going to respond to that, obviously. Okay, that student is expected to respond back with, again, their position, okay, and ground it. It's not to say, well, you're wrong, I disagree, or, you don't, Again, you have to make sure that you're responding in a very clear, concise, and what's the word I'm looking for? With some depth, I should say, okay? Make sure that you understand what the citing and the formatting is. Just because you're in discussion, okay, in an online environment, that does not mean that you are not expected to use correct citing and formatting, you are. Okay, so if in fact you are creating and developing a response and you came to that conclusion based on the reading in your textbook or possibly a reading in some of the research that you've done, you need to cite it, okay, and cite it properly, okay, whatever format that has been indicated in your course. So MLA, APA, whatever it might be, Chicago, make sure you do that. The other thing too, I want to make a point, because this has happened, do not copy your classmates' postings. You know, we've had some students that think it's okay to copy and actually post. Well, no, you can't do that. If you're actually going to copy, okay, some of your classmates' postings, you need to actually give them the proper credit, okay, for that. That, you know, classmate Sally, blah, 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 indicated this, blah, 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 quotation mark or whatever, and, you know, I disagree with Sally's posting or Sally's, you know, statement or whatever, and these are the reasons why based on such and such studies, such and such, okay? Make sure that you, if you do that, you can refer to students' postings, but just make sure that you're going to give credit, okay, and where it's coming from, all right, if that makes any sense. I think I said ground your information. Again, that comes back to the citing and the format. You know, postings, unless specified, should not be your opinion unless you have grounding information to support your opinion. Make sure that that is really clear. Otherwise, stay away from I and strong statements which are biased and opinionated. Okay? I know that can be very difficult, but be careful of that. Use Word. And I apologize, it should say Microsoft Word or some type of Word software to develop your responses. Personally, I would not develop them in the discussion area, okay? I would develop them in your Word document or some document, because you can draft them. These are your drafts, you can change it, you can edit it, and then you can save them, by the way. And if you have to refer back to them for future modules, you can always go back. So that's what I would do. You can do a cut and paste easily, okay? Okay, into the discussion, what am I saying, the whiteboard area. I'm drawing a blank of the word. But you can just copy and paste, not a problem. You might lose some formatting, but then you're going to have to go up there and clean it. But in general, try to stay away from doing it right there in the discussion area, because the other thing too is I say don't react. Sometimes you react. If you have to go to Word and another document to write it, you tend not to react, okay, to some of the postings. Listen carefully and clearly to your classmates' postings. And the reason why I say this, and I've said this before, is that some of your classmates are going to provide some insightful information and perspectives. Try to keep an open mind and try to understand where your classmate is coming from. And how do we do that? We do that by asking questions, okay? By asking questions, as we know, and we went back there, it says, you know, be, remember this word? Inquisitive. By asking questions, it will clear up, okay, maybe some of the misunderstandings you had of what they wrote, okay? Or you might say, okay, I do understand, thank you. So, and then build upon your classmates' postings, okay? So I won't go any more about that. And then develop a schedule. And the reason why I say that, you know, I say this, develop a schedule. What are you talking about, Terry, for discussions? Well, develop a schedule as to when you are going to be online, okay, as it's not necessary, by the way, to be on 7 days a week and every hour. Students that are new to the online environment, the discussion area especially, okay, you feel that they have to be on there constantly. And you know, especially if your computer is at home and you're constantly walking by it, you're thinking, oh my gosh, maybe I should be on, maybe I should be on, I should look. What does everybody say? You can do that if you have the time. But it's probably going to drive you nuts, especially if you have 2, 3, 4 classes that you're also doing the same. So just make sure that you're meeting the expectations. If you actually develop a schedule, okay, I think it will help you stay to that. So if you know that you have, you know, Monday, Thursdays, and Sundays available, then stick to that schedule as long as you're meeting the expectations of the class. Okay, it's not necessary to be on there, you know, like I said, 7 days a week. You're still engaging. Okay, so that's really my presentation, okay, when it comes to online discussions. I hope it gave you some different insight. I hope it gave you some things to think about. So I'm just going to kind of open it up from some questions and comments. And any feedback about the presentation, and maybe, you know, were you expecting something slightly different? Okay, I'm just going to wait because I see there's some comments. Okay, or at least people are typing. Okay, so Justice says, what should one do when others are sharing personal information? I would say not respond. Especially if you think it's inappropriate, Justice. If you think the personal information that's being shared, it depends on what the personal information is. Okay, so let me back up a little bit. If like for instance, the first week typically of a term, the instructors do ask, it's called an icebreaker, okay? And all instructors actually go about this a little slightly different. So some instructors will give you, will ask you, you know, give us a little information, you know, about yourself, all right? Now, lots of students take that in very different ways, you know. So, you know, if someone asks me, you know, Terry, write something a little, you know, a little bit about yourself, I just say, well, you know, I don't have to say I'm married, but I'm married and I've got 2 children and, you know, I like to run, blah, 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 and I'm taking this course because of this, right? So then that's okay. But if the personal information is getting a little too personal, I guess I would say, then you could contact the instructor and say, you know, I think this information is a little too personal, you know, we might want to define, can you define a little bit clearer what you mean by personal? Or you just ignore it, okay, Justice? Pamela, there was, okay, this was good, gave me insight into what I need to focus on. Great, thank you, Pamela, I hope it did. Thank you, Roseanne. Let's see, I'm new to this and know that I can, very good, thank you. Denisa, I hope I pronounced that correctly. Classes will not require a specific time to respond. One can respond based on personal schedule. So if you're asking me the question, yes, they will not tell you you need to respond between this hour and this hour. The only classes that I'm aware of, now I could be wrong because I don't know all of the classes criteria, but I know Spanish classes, the language classes, there are certain times that you need to sign on to Illuminate and actually practice your oral part of the language, okay? And those are very specific times, like from 7 to 9 or whatever, and they usually put a schedule out there. But as far as the discussion areas, the only time specified would be, you know, Module 1 starts on this date and ends on this date, and the discussion area is only going to be open from this date to this date, and it's going to be closed. But it doesn't tell you time-wise, okay? Rick, you're welcome. Jay Jackson, helpful information was extremely helpful. This is my first class. Good, I'm glad it did. Thank you, Asha. Okay, good. So hopefully, you know, I'm glad it helped. If there's something that comes up as you get into your discussions, please feel free. As a matter of fact, if I go to this slide, and actually I will talk about this slide in a minute. Actually, I quoted the slide. But here's my information, my contact information. Please feel free to contact me anytime if, in fact, you think you're struggling a little bit on the discussion area. You know, the discussion area, by the way, is very, very important, okay? Don't dismiss it, okay? But don't go wild with it either, okay? Try to balance that. This particular sheet or this particular slide just gives you some quick links to some areas from an academic standpoint, academic support standpoint. So the Learning Support tab is going to give you some great resources as it pertains to study skills, time management, and so on and so forth. I also do workshops on those. And under the Learning Support tab, you will see there is a summer schedule for some of these workshops, so feel free to sign up for those. I also do the peer tutoring program. If you go to that link, it gives you some information. I will tell you it's under repair. I'm kind of modifying it a little bit, so if it's a little clunky now, I apologize. But this is where you can request a tutor if in fact you think you need a tutor, or if you think you need some help with some of the discussions, I can give you an academic coach that can help you with that. Smart Thinking is a great online tutoring service. It covers many topics, but it also allows you to submit your papers to Smart Thinking tutors, writing tutors, and they will respond back from 24 to 48 hours and give you some feedback. So you know, let's just say you have a discussion, okay, that does require, you know, a lengthy, okay, paper that you're actually going to submit in a discussion area. You might want to use Smart Thinking and send it and have them look at it and make some suggestions on how to better the paper. So that is available. We do have a writing coach, and that writing coach is to develop it's developmental, basically, writing. So for students that are really struggling with structuring, you know, sentences, punctuation, I oversee that, and I usually ask for sample papers before I decide or determine a writing coach is necessary. I might just pop the student back to Smart Thinking. And then, of course, the academic coaching is not a tutor, okay, but that can be requested and asked for more information via email. It is not on the Peer Tutor Program yet site. And then, of course, your link to the library. Yes, the cheat sheet will be available with the recording of this session, absolutely. You're going to receive the PowerPoint presentation, most likely tomorrow, and it will be there, and then you can print that out. And then Khan Academy is a very good place to go in and seek additional information on a number of topics, but like math, I mean, it's got like 3,200 videos. They're 2 to 3 minutes. They're not fancy, but they get the point. So I suggest everybody check that out. And then I got the contact information. So I think that's it. If you don't have any questions or comments, then we can end the session. And you guys can go and hopefully eat your lunch or go back to work or do whatever you were doing before. Okay, you're welcome. Thank you. I appreciate everybody taking the time today. Wonderful. You're welcome, Ruth Ann. All right, goodbye, everybody. You have a nice day and a good evening.